give us insights into various projects and ways of going forward within international service. So I wanted to start by just looking at a definition of what a Rotary volunteer really is. And for this particular pinch from another club's version, I think says it all. It's about developing people as agents of change and people of action within the Rotary world. And there is absolutely no limit to what we can accomplish when we all work together. So my personal hope is that within this coming year, the International Service Group will seek to develop some true partnerships across the Rotary world. International service, what is it? I can't see the slides, so I don't know how you get rid of that.
Are you looking?
I think I'll be very lucky, won't I?
Are you?
Okay, so the key focus areas that we've developed within Rotary looks at core areas of focus, which we should be looking for the needs. So the question that I want to ask everybody is, start from the need end. Very often we see with a lot of our international projects, we set about trying to deliver something that we want to deliver. And in fact, that's the wrong way around. We should be going to the destination recipients of the projects to find out what it is that they really need. Then step back and look at the skills and resources that we can bring to bear as Rotarians within this district to address the complete response to that. Now, as we go through this presentation, hopefully the other speakers will bring to life this platform that we really desperately need to be able to look into the world. So I've got lined up Sarah Patterson, who will introduce to you shortly, from South Africa, and Martin Brockelbank, who will be talking about the use of an e-club to extend the reach of Rotary. So those are two people who I hope will bring something to bear on this. Now, within my own club, we've been looking at a number of international projects. We had a school project in Nepal, but I'm afraid that what it's done, it's become more of a fundraising exercise than something which I'm hoping to bring back, which is a call to serve, a real application of connected service from individual Rotarians into projects, rather than merely raising the funds to deliver funds to a particular project. So we're going to have a brief chat shortly from the Ormskirk Clock Tower group on their experience in Uganda, which I hope will bring to life the multiple themes that need to come together for a particular project success. What are our goals for the year? Clearly, we've got to answer Holger Knack's challenge. How do we open opportunities, open those doors to deliver through our club, through our district, and globally, a range of skills that can actually address some real challenges within the focus areas? How do we come about driving collaboration platforms that will share the new post-COVID world that we're trying to make Rotary succeed in? And how do we drive publicity on what we're trying to do to attract new members I believe strongly that if we have a range of really interesting and stimulating projects which we can develop within the district, this will become a magnet, a lightning rod, if you like, for new members to come in to help us. Within international service, we clearly need to look at a number of resources that are available to us within the Rotary world. And I'd like just to stress the Rotary Showcase, which is available on the Rotary.org website, which has a huge, enormous array of projects. And I think it almost brings us to the point where you don't need to invent anything new. You can actually go and look at experiences from other clubs elsewhere in the world and within the UK, and look at their experiences. How do we look at developing similar successful projects? There was also some extremely valuable information on the Rotary Grant Centre page, which I wanted to highlight. Again, there's another slide later, but we'll come back to that. And then there is a unofficial Rotary Global Grants page, which was pointed out to me recently, which I think has an extraordinary list of projects looking for funding and looking for partners. So again, this is a resource that I would like to flag up. And then the non-digital world is still supported by our print copies of Rotary and Rotary Now, highlighting what's happening in the Rotary world, which we need to pick up and respond to. A bit more on the showcase. There are literally thousands of objects in the showcase, all individually listed and grouped within the 6 main areas of focus. I really commend this resource to everyone. Grants. I'm personally a little surprised at how little use is made of the global grant facility within our district. Many of our projects are supported by district grants, and I think that is well used, but obviously that source of funding is limited. Whereas the global grant pot, I don't think we are accessing anything like to the right extent within this district. In terms of the global reach, the size of Rotary is significant. We've got 1.2 million members. Now, these are all potential participants in our international service projects. We've got 35,000 odd clubs who we could reach out to. There's a lot going on. There was an estimate that I saw of something like $49.1 million worth of grants value, global grants utilized or drawn in 2019-20, with an average global grant figure of about $80,000. I'm not aware of any current global grant project going in District 1180, and I'm hoping that David will jump in and correct me. I think there may be 1 or 2 that aren't using more global grant access from District 1180. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to turn to what has been an extremely successful project, and I'd like to call Dave and Liz in to just tell us a little bit more about it. This is a project in Uganda driven by Ormskirk Clock Tower. So over to you, Dave and Liz.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Dave Tong. I'm a member of Ormskirk Clock Tower Rotary. I'm currently, and will be next year, the foundation chair for our club. And with me,
Liz Tong, also Clock Tower, and I'm the international lead.
if I can firstly just give some background information to our project in Uganda, and then Liz will talk about what we actually did out there. Our link to Uganda is both personal and club-based. We have links with a charity which we've been working with for a number of years called Molly and Paul Childcare Foundation, which is based around Kampala and Masaka districts of Uganda. Molly and Paul run 6 schools and a clinic, and also a children's village in a village called Kamazinda, which is 3 hours outside of Kampala. And within that children's village, there are 10 homes that house poor, needy, and some orphan children. Our club has a long-standing association with Molly and Paul in that they've hosted members of a choir that visits the UK every year to do a tour to fundraise for the charity. And then on a personal note, Liz and I are now trustees for the charity, which has direct links in terms of fundraising and running the choir tours in the UK. We think this is really good news, as it's given us the link, and it's also given us an important element in doing anything in Africa. It's given us the trust of people in Uganda, and that trust runs both ways. Our recent visit in February this year was to follow up and be hands-on in respect of our 2019-20 district grant. And this grant was to build a home for teenage boys. 47 teenage boys in total were living in cramped in one small home. In fact, 2 small rooms. So the grant, you can see on the slide, the home on the right-hand side, which has now been named Ormskirk Home, was our district grant. This was our 3rd visit to Uganda, which has also involved Rotarians on each occasion. This year, 17 of us travelled to Uganda, and it was a mixed bag of people. Rotarians, a church group, a U3A member, some school staff from schools that we visited with the choir, plus some members of our own community here. This group of 17 people did their own fundraising over and above our district grant. The fundraising involved coffee mornings, a sponsored 10K run, an evening event in collaboration with the Lions Club, Rugby World Cup sweepstakes, a promise auction, some craft sales and church events. Astonishingly, all that fundraising raised £19,500, which allowed us to do so much more than just the district grant work when we arrived in Uganda.
Yes, okay, the amount of money we raised was fantastic, but I think Hamish is right in saying that district grant is about so much more than that. And I've just been thinking about, you know, who else we touched. Yes, we did this building, we built the home for the boys, but also we reached out to our own local community. We used social media, we used the group we were traveling with, and we used our own contacts, we used Rotary. We put out a plea through Facebook community groups, emails to schools, as well as friends, which gave us over 400 pairs of shoes that we carried out to Uganda with us, school shoes for the children there, many of whom were in bare feet. We collected first aid, we collected medicines. Again, we used the community. We took boxes of paracetamol. The clinic out at Kamazinda has bare shelves most of the time, so we were able to help there. We used the church groups as well for that. The lady that came with us from U3A spoke to other U3A. Again, it was all linking Rotary and opening people's eyes to what we were doing. She ran a sponsor a desk scheme, and people sponsored £20 for a desk. She raised £800, and whilst we were there, the carpenter came to the village and we helped build 70 desks for the school there. Usually there's 7 or 8 children sitting to a desk. So it was just another little thing we did. Dave mentioned that we linked to the local Lions group. They got on board. We went and spoke to them as Rotary members. They gave us £1,000 donation towards our trip. We made a link with a charity based in Yorkshire called PhysioNet, again through Rotary. It's a Yorkshire-based charity. They send out containers full of medical aid all over the world. They donated us a heavy-duty wheelchair, which we took for Brian, who is one of the students we know at Camazinda. He's 19 and a victim of polio, so we helped him. I had a chat with Sue Wilson, our community lead, who spoke the other night, talking about the problem young girls have with their education. We linked with a charity called Days for Girls, to make 40 feminine hygiene bags for the young girls at Camazinda, many of whom miss a few days every month due to poor sanitary protection. These sewing days were set up with the community. There was a local quilting group, there were friends, there was Rotary, and we used a base called the Sewing Rooms, which is a social enterprise in Skelmersdale that employs people with potential mental health issues, long-term unemployed people, and isolated groups. So again, we linked Rotary with the community. Extra donations that Dave mentioned about, we had so much money. It allowed us to go and deliver food parcels into the community when we were at Camazinda. We went and visited the young and the old, and we took basic supplies out to them. We repaired boreholes that weren't working, which was the lifeline to clean water. We fixed guttering to the school and to other buildings, and provided water tanks to help with irrigation for their crops. We painted classrooms, we laid new floors. We provided fencing. The government in Uganda are now saying that schools must be fenced for safeguarding purposes. They couldn't afford it as a charity. We did so much more. We bought bunk beds, we bought bedding. We spoke to Rotary groups and they very kindly donated money. Our James there with us tonight bought 10 computers. So we helped with the education of the children there with their IT. Northwich gave us money. Northwich Rotary Club, thank you. They gave us money for mosquito nets. I could go on. I know Hamish said 8 to 10 minutes, but I just wanted to say that, you know, a district grant isn't about raising funds and sending it out to build something or just to do one of these areas, these 6 areas. You can do so much more. It becomes, the district grant is like the stone in the pond and everything ripples out from that. We're better known in the community with all the groups that we've mentioned. It attracts non-Rotary, and yeah, there were 17 of us. I think 7 of them were Rotarians. The others might not join, but we know that they're always going to support us because we're now friends as well. And then last but no means least, you know, traveling out there is a whole different experience. To go, and that home you can see on the slide, we painted it. We didn't build it, but we painted it. It was the hands-on thing, and everything that traveling with a group brings. It's certainly life-changing, and the amount of people from Rotary that say, you know, I'd love to do something like that. I don't know where to start. Well, I just want to say, you know, there are starting places and you can find places. Molly and Paul at Camazinda isn't one on its own. There are so many places like that. And if you want to do it, you know, go for it. And I just promise you, you won't ever regret it. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Liz and Dave. I think you're an absolute inspiration to us all. And I think for me, the magic of it is how all these themes all come together to deliver some point of focus like this. I think you've reached out with so many different projects here in the UK to deliver real impact on the ground in Uganda. So, you know, huge congratulations to Ormskirk Clock Tower for what you've all managed to do. And of course, this isn't the end, is it? You're carrying on with your project.
No, we're hoping to go back again next February. Who knows? I don't think we'll be there then, but we'll definitely be back. And, you know, there's always an invite to people to go. So I'm throwing it out there.
Brilliant. Thanks so much to you both.
The opportunity.
Can I just come in with a couple of comments?
Go for it.
If it's a good
Yep.
sign. Yeah, we've had a couple of shout outs. One from Malcolm Ross, who would like everybody to know about Mary's Meals, and if anybody wants to know anything more about Mary's Meals, they can get hold of Malcolm at Northwich Vale Royal. They are obviously concerned that they're still feeding 1.6 million children despite the COVID-19 in some of the world's most deprived communities. Another shout out for the showcase. A few people have commented on how good it is. If you haven't gone on to the showcase, folks, you're missing out. There's some fantastic ideas on there. There's been a little bit about grants. We do have a global grant going on at the moment with the Rotary Club of Ruthin, and that is a wheelchair project out in Botswana. That is financially, it looks like it's all go, so that's really good news. And I know, having spoken to Doreen, that there are one or two other projects in the pipeline. We're not sure where we are with those at the moment. It may be at some stage. I know that Doreen is here. If you wanted anything cleared up with regards to the global grant situation, you may want to bring her in, maybe at the end. And there's a couple of good projects on there. I'd encourage people to have a little look in the chat and see what other clubs are doing. Roydon Revolve, Angela Williams on there about Gambia. So there's lots of examples of what people are doing in the chat. So don't forget, folks, have a little look in there and catch up with what other people are doing. Back to you, Hamish. So
one of the other projects that I think has inspired people as well is the Pre-Loved Bras project for Zambia. And again, this is one of those examples where a little idea goes a very long way. The idea, I think, came from Scotland and is part of a Scottish charity, and the number of bras that Northwich and West Wirral have managed to collect is just beyond belief. And I think that this particular project is going to go again here, and this time schools and the Girl Guides will be involved as well. So I think that's an example of something, and I think this is the spirit of the idea that we recycle and upscale material that still has a good life for people that really need them. Tony Hoy unfortunately cannot be with us tonight, but he did. He is the End Polio Now lead, and he wanted really to give a huge shout out to everybody who have made their Polio Plus contributions so far. It looks like for this current Rotary year, they're on track to raise $49,000. It's all go. He's very hopeful that that's a positive outcome. He will be contacting us all with news on the Purple Crocus Corms development for the coming year, and various other bits and pieces on how we can drive Purple for Polio forward. The target, which he has mentioned in a presentation that I saw some weeks back, is they're hoping for roughly $55 per member across the district. And he was disappointed to say that in 2018-19, 22 clubs did not contribute anything at all. So he's hoping that those 22, if they're still not managing to find any funding, if they could put something in, that would be a really positive outcome. I'd like now to invite Mark to come in and just give us a brief update on Shelterbox.
Thank you, Hamish. Hello everyone, I'm Mark Brown from Ormskirk Clock Tower Club, and under 1 month in the Shelter Box District Coordinator role, taking over from Jerry Heaslip, and I see Jerry's on the call. So hello Jerry, first time to see you. I know we've chatted a couple of times and still look forward to our meet and a beer. Thanks already to people from around the district who have introduced themselves as resources for resources in their club and district for Shelter Box. What I'll try and do in the next few weeks is pull together a current resource list so I'm able to redirect more localized support when it might be required once the post-COVID world unlocks itself for events. Of course, new disasters can strike at any time, anywhere, but it's the third world disasters that hit the news and clearly show where support is much needed. Cash, yes, but in disasters or conflict where people become homeless, Shelter Box can be a real support. And Shelter Box currently support and have ongoing work in countries like Syria, Nigeria, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Philippines, and others. But as some of you will know, if not everybody, there's been a very recent event that's resulted in a current and immediate appeal from Shelter Box. On May the 20th and through into the 21st of May, so still less than 10 days ago, the super cyclone Amphan hit Bangladesh and India's eastern border near Kolkata with winds of up to 115 miles per hour. Both countries are evacuating millions of people from coastal areas where there is already a lack of clean water, healthcare, and resilient housing. And it might end up being one of the biggest storms to hit the region in a decade, as well as unfortunately killing many people. Millions will or have lost homes and livelihoods. Tackling both coronavirus issues and the disaster at once would be very, very challenging for the two countries involved, especially as they attempt to maintain social distancing, if that's possible, in crowded or potentially crowded evacuation centres and emergency shelters. So I'm sure you can all imagine the real challenges immediately. Whole communities need urgent emergency shelter and other essential items like water filters, mosquito nets sometimes, to help them survive and keep safe from the virus and other diseases. Having worked across many parts of Bangladesh and India in Shelter Box's 20-year history, they have a strong connection with other humanitarian organisations and local Rotary clubs there. And straight away, I'd like to appeal on behalf of Shelter Box to all clubs to review this disaster, discuss with the clubs, and see if you have funds available for an immediate £590 box funding donation for this region and this. If you asked about the year ahead, well, as I've said, it's still in month 1 at the moment, so
Sure.
a clear plan for the year ahead, other than that I need to develop one. And really, it's to get up to speed, understand how I can get wider involvement from district clubs, and from there, what difference we as a district and clubs can make to deliver in these times of real need. Anyway, and I have a Shelter Box email address, and I'd be pleased to receive any questions, comments, initially by email, so give me time to get my head around the question and give you the right answer. But thank you, and let's see what we can
Thanks
do.
very much. Thanks very much, Mark. That's brilliant. Thank you. Now, I personally find the covers of Rotary in Africa extraordinary. Sarah sent these through to me, and I think if I can just briefly show you this and the next slide. you can see the topics covered are absolutely fascinating. But my hope is that what we should be looking at is how can this particular magazine, which is both digital and in print, how can it present an opportunity to share the problems and deliver on the solutions? So over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Hamish, and good evening, everyone. I'm actually really thrilled to be here and to be listening to all these wonderful stories. I'm fascinated with the Uganda project, well, all of them really. I mean, the BRAS project, it's fantastic. And it's always wonderful to see the level of commitment that we get from Rotarians when they undertake projects like this. And it's more than just throwing money at a problem. You actually take the time to come out here and experience it for yourself, which makes a big difference and is always truly appreciated. Anyway, to introduce myself, I'm Sarah. I'm the editor of Rotary Africa South. We just added that to our name recently. And we are the Rotary Regional Magazine for Africa. We just in about 10 countries, 7 districts. I've been editor since 2009 and 6 months, well, for the simple reason that being an editor at Rotary Africa is a life sentence. My predecessor unfortunately passed away on the tennis court at 8 in dedication to this position. I live in a small town called Howick. It's in the KwaZulu-Natal province of South Africa. We're on the East Coast. I'm about 90 minutes inland from Durban. I also run a small freelance company. We do publishing of books, branding work, gazebos, lots and lots of Rotary banners. And I used to be a journalist with a newspaper group, but before that, my misspent youth was unfortunately spent in law enforcement. I was part of the Road Traffic Inspectorate. I was a provincial inspector. And yeah, then I returned back to journalism, decided I liked it better behind the paper. Until 2018, I had not been a Rotarian. I decided to try and remain objective and serve all clubs equally and fairly. However, in 2018, Jana Dubell, who I believe 1 or 2 people may know here, she and a few of her friends got hold of me and they sort of organized everything. I moved to Howick and was part of the Rotary Club. My town of Howick is famous for 3 things, really. We're on the Midlands Meander, which is a tourist attraction. We have a waterfall in the middle of our town called Howick Falls, or Kwanogwaza, which stands about 110 feet tall or 95 meters. We are also about 5 minutes from where Nelson Mandela was arrested by the apartheid police. Now, going into the Rotary Africa magazine, we are one of the regional magazines. We're part of the Rotary Global Media Network, along with your Rotary magazine that you receive there. And if you look at the distribution totals for the regional magazines and the Rotarian magazine, more than half of the world's Rotarians receive a regional magazine instead of the Rotarian. There are more than 30 magazines. We are published in 24 languages and in 130 countries. Together, the regional magazines have a circulation that exceeds 870,000. Our magazines have local regionalized content. We also include articles of interest from the Rotarian, as well as mandatory content from RI. And then we have about 20% space to play with, and I use it to publish articles which may be of interest to our readers, and which generally end up being the fun covers that we've had recently. The flamingo one was me at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to come up with an idea for a cover, and that somehow ended up there. And it's about 2 or 3 photographs that are combined. When we look at how the Rotary Africa magazine fits into the print and digital world of Rotary, we are, like I said, we are licensed to Rotary International. But the Rotary Africa magazine in particular is in quite a unique position in that our readers and subscribers are mostly our writers as well. We don't employ journalists. There's just myself and an admin person, along with the assistance from our board of directors, we publish this magazine 11 months of the year. Because of this, we have a very, very comprehensive view of the projects being undertaken in the districts, especially from the clubs that work with us quite a lot. And we know more or less which clubs undertake a lot of global grants, which ones just have partnerships with other clubs internationally, locally. We know which we've got a good sense of which clubs are a bit nervous about trying grants, but we've also got a lot of insight into what projects are working, and that is so important. There's a story that I always think of about how a well was built in a small village, and because the women used to have to walk for an hour and a half to fetch water, and after the well was built, it kept on being broken. And they couldn't figure out what the problem was. And the local people were blaming whoever, soldiers, vandals. And then eventually someone went in and said to him, who's breaking the well? And it turned out it was the women, because they missed the hour and a half away from their homes, husbands and children. And this is why the story came to mind when Hamish was speaking, because he said that we tend to deliver what we want to deliver instead of finding out what's needed. And this is why using Rotary Africa and other regional magazines is such a valuable resource, because we know what works. We know what our readers, what our clubs are doing. We know which projects have really gained momentum, have been expanded. I can list projects that going back years, which have done tremendous things, which started out as small little pipe dreams by a tiny little club, and they've just snowballed into something bigger and better. And the changes that they've brought about in those communities, to coin a phrase, are lasting changes. They really are making an impact in their communities. When it comes to international service, looking for the types of projects that people would be interested in, yes, the sanitary projects for girls, those are fantastic. They're taking off. We've got our E-Club in District 9370 is doing and has done one or two global grant projects with that along that area. They've worked in conjunction with a service provider called Project Dignity, which supplies reusable products that are hygienic, can be cleaned, last up to 5 years. And they have actually measured the results at the schools, and they have documented with reliable data, not just thumb sucking, that there has been an improvement in academic performance and attendance of the girls in these schools. So these projects do make a difference, and they are very important. Where I had the privilege of meeting Hamish the other night was in another E-Club meeting, and I was speaking about what we call early education, early childhood development, sorry. And that is education for children in about the age bracket from about, say, 5 to 6 years. That's the year before they start proper primary school. We call it preschool here, or pre-primary. I know some countries call it kindergarten, but that is a fundamental stage where it is most important for us to implement our education interventions. The data is out there. The studies have found that there have been positive results in terms of the social and economic contributions that children or adults make to their communities based on how much ECD intervention they have been privileged to receive. And so we are paying a lot of attention to this at the moment in South Africa. My club, along with many other clubs, are involved in projects where we are training teachers in this. It's an area of education that has generally been overlooked as more of a daycare function, and only recently in the last probably 6 or 7 years, it's gained momentum and recognition as a number of studies have been released globally about the importance of this area. And as such, in South Africa, it's not required for these teachers to be qualified. They are often just women who really, really have a passion for young children, for teaching them, for learning with them, and for just helping them grow. And they start off their work. Sorry. Am I
So
over?
we're getting to the danger, the yellow zone. So
Okay, I'll wrap it up.
draw to a close. Wrap
Okay.
up.
So these projects involve training these teachers because they've never been formally required to have training before. We are enabling them to be trained to get positions or be available for opportunities at schools where they can actually earn money all through the year instead of just the days that they teach. And what's interesting about these projects is that they have the lowest physical financial investment and the highest returns. You're looking at anything between 4 and 12 times return on investment, and that's according to a study that was given by the World Health Organization.
Truly incredible. I think you're an absolute inspiration to us all, and I know that we all want to access the hallowed pages of Rotary Africa South. So
Yes.
to try and bridge the gap between what we're doing here and what you need in all those 7 countries in Africa that you cover. So thanks, Sarah,
Yes.
so much for your time
Pleasure.
here, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Worth mentioning,
Okay,
Hamish,
great.
actually, Sarah, one of our Rotarians has just mentioned in the chat, Brian Cockrell from Liverpool Exchange, and they have supported Project Dignity based in Durban for a number of years.
Wonderful.
He's been out and visited Gerald and Irene of the Youth Club of South Africa and seen the nursery schools and the girls who benefit.
That's
And he says it's wonderful work.
Gerald's my boss.
Like I said, this Rotary world is a very small world. Can I just encourage people to have a look through the chat before we go off this evening and look at some of the ideas, some of the projects that are going on. I can't read them all out. There's just so many. People telling them what they're doing. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And one of them from Angela Williams, which is the site box. And let's not forget about site boxing. But there's some great stuff on there, Hamish, and I would encourage everybody to have a little look at that.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Sarah. So now we're going to shift our emphasis through to e-clubs, and Martin's going to educate us on what he's been doing with the e-club of innovation. Thanks, Martin.
Thanks. Can you let me upload?
Yes,
Yeah.
I hope so.
I'll stop your screen share, Hamish.
Thank you.
There we go.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. It's been absolutely fascinating listening to all the projects and the various things that are happening. And I never cease to be amazed about the interconnectivity that occurs both within or out with districts in the UK, but globally. And from my point of view, we're a global e-club, and that means that we do connect, collaborate and communicate with people all over the world. We had a meeting the other night, and it was with the chaplain from Robben Island in South Africa, so quite interesting to listen to the Africa magazine. And we had about 70, 80 people online. And it went on for 2 hours. It was amazing. And the amount of information and exchanges that took place was phenomenal. But in view of the fact that time is a little short, I'll work through my presentation, if I may. You should be able to see that any second. We're the E-Club of Innovation, and I founded, along with a few other people, the club, really as a way to try to people who were time conscious, didn't have lots of money, variety of reasons why they wouldn't join a traditional club, and therefore we went to do a e-club. E-clubs in those days, which was 6 years ago, we chartered 6 years ago, as last Thursday, I think. Were not that well known. Some people knew them, but a lot of people said, "Oh, what the hell's all these about?" And we found ourselves in some difficulties. We did have a difficult start because it took 18 months to actually charter, which was a bit of a surprise. Our motto now is working virtually for a better reality, and as I say, we chartered in May 2014. We chartered with 33 members worldwide from Japan, China, South Korea, Brazil, Spain, France. I won't go through them all, Kenya, and that opened up a new opportunity. We actually started as the E-Club of East Anglia, and we changed our name because it became fairly clear that being a global club, being the East Anglia Club was a bit irrelevant. So we're now the E-Club of Innovation, which covers all 6 areas of focus, really. Okay, some of our history, we've helped charter a daughter club, which is the E-Club of Aviation, which again was a new concept based on fellowships. We guided the formation of 3 new E-Clubs, including the E-Club of Greater Cape Town. So again, we've got an affinity with South Africa, it seems to be. We've inspired the use of technology with 5 traditional clubs. This was before lockdown. In fact, lockdown's done a favour because it's opened up opportunities to everybody to realise the power of video conferencing and technology. So we're now pushing at an easier door than we were. Okay. Our involvement has actually led to we've figured out about 160 new members into the Rotary family. So we're doing our bit, or we're trying to. We meet 24/7, 365 globally. And how do we do that? How we do it, very briefly, we realised very quickly that we were not likely back to the little club. Everybody wearing, I got into trouble the first time at a meeting because they were a tie. So we suddenly realised that it's not going to work if you try to actually become a traditional club. So we actively say that we are non-traditional unless there's a compelling reason to do so. And that led us down this route of a fairly hard word, which is asynchronous, which really just means that anywhere, anytime, in simple terms. A traditional club would meet in same time, same place, whereas we can meet in lots of different dimensions. And I won't go through them all, but you can see that as we've got now, we've got it live and it's in the same time, whereas the speaker recording is in a different time and a different place. So so that helped us to actually get our head round what platforms and what models and what things we could use to actually move ourselves forward. Okay, so we became fairly multi-dimensional in that way. One thing that mainstay for us was that when we had 4 people in Japan, 4 members in Japan, 1 in China and 1 in South Korea. And when we have a meeting on a Wednesday night at 7:30, it's about 3:30 in the morning in Japan. So we had to get over those sort of things. And we tried lots of different technologies, but Workplace by Facebook is an intranet which actually works really well for us. It in essence provides us with groups, with live broadcasting, with chat and with file sharing. So we have all the tools, and it's a bit like Facebook, but privately for our club only. So members in our club can actually use it. Because tonight's not about this, it's more about projects, I'll skip over the detail of it, but Workplace has been an absolutely integral part in our ability to be able to communicate with people in different time zones. Okay, we can do posts, we can do polls, it even automatically translates if people are in another language. We can live stream and we can share documentation and events. Okay, if we had more time, I would probably go through it, and I can maybe do that another time. And we can do it from any device, anywhere. Okay. We use it to organise events and fundraisers. We can work, chat and broadcast to members, and we can video conference from Workplace directly to Zoom. We have had the benefit of being able to get the keynote speakers, and you can see there was one of the RI presidents, and we regularly get keynote speakers to come and talk to us, which makes it attractive. Our Wednesday meeting, which is a speaker meeting, is not a club meeting. We don't have club meetings. We meet online on our intranet. Okay, so we really use technology to connect, communicate, and collaborate. So what does that mean to us in terms of talking about tonight? Subjects. We could collaborate with people in real time or in non-real time, where we can leave a message for someone and then the next day they can respond to it, and we can even record videos to talk to each other as well. Some of the projects, I mean, these are just looking back over some of them. I just put them on here and badly spelt as well, my apologies. Raising money for Children's Giggle Doctors in Addenbrooke's was one of our first ones. We actually, several of us met up in person, which is really unusual, but we did, and we walked over the dome for a polio and raised money. We raised about £3,000, I think, on that occasion for polio and water projects. We coordinated with some local clubs. If I can just break up and say, projects we do in 3 different ways. We do projects individually, we do them in what you might call cluster groups, which is really if people are local, and individuals or clusters can work with other local clubs. Okay, so that actually gives us a strong engagement. And we worked with local clubs in my hometown of Norwich to refurbish a scout centre in a poor community. And we actually found that as the E-Club, we were the coordinators of it all. Interesting that Sarah was talking about teaching the teacher. We're at the moment organising a Teach the Teacher online training in Gambia, and we're doing it in conjunction, hopefully, we're under negotiation at the moment, with the Open University in this country. We've got members in all over. We've got members in Nepal, Qatar, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Spain, France. We had Japan. We're going to get a new member in Japan soon. Kabul and Czech Republic, Brazil, Malta, Canada, and Nova Scotia. That's just to give you a broad brush. The Kabul one's interesting because what we can do is understand on the ground exactly what is actually going on in that part or in any part of the world from a real perspective. They can even put their camera outside and show us what's happening. So that enables us to actually be able to connect and collaborate in a way to see how we can best work. So our tools are, as I say, individual, in clusters, or as a club. When it's a club, it tends to be online activity in some sort of way, like Teach the Teacher. We've just got one going at the moment, which is actually a fundraiser, but it's a fundraiser for COVID-19 research, and it's running a virtual dog show. Okay, so there's 2 days left, so if you've got a dog and you want to join it, have a look at virtualdogshow.org and go for it. Okay, so Workplace actually helps us keep members engaged globally. The time-place model enables us to develop our thinking globally, and online video meetings allow the flexibility and opportunities globally as well. There's a 1.5 minute video I'd like to share if possible. Have we got time for that? Can we
go for it?
Okay. How we get the message across to people is we use all technology, including video, and this is our video promo to really summarise what we do, hopefully.
Brilliant, Martin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Just something to me.
Go ahead.
I think that gives you a flavour with regard to it. And like I say, we've got members all over. Like in Kenya, we've got a chap there, a guy there who's set up a children's charity in Kilifi and is working on that. Several of our members have actually been over and done national immunisation days, and we're connected with people like School in a Bag and Literacy in a Box and Roll Out the Barrel. So so we do what we can in different ways, and as I say, our ethos is very much to be we're non-traditional unless there is a compelling reason to be so. And thank you for inviting me for tonight.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Martin. That's really great. So, James, can I get the screen back?
Yeah, just hit the green screen share button in the middle. There we go.
Back. Yes. Okay. So here we are in the COVID world, and clearly we're going to need to use all of these new platforms to try and get our message over. I think Zoom has changed the way we interact, but I think also within international service, we're going to have to try and use Facebook and perhaps Twitter and Instagram as well to share the opportunities for projects, to link the skills and resources we have with interesting projects. And I think, you know, my goal is that we also reach out and use any other platforms that are available at the same time. I'm also particularly thrilled that the 2020 Rotary Virtual Convention is going to happen, and I just wanted to give a shout out for that. I certainly would not have been able to afford going to Hawaii, so I think this is an extraordinary opportunity for many people to have access to something in Rotary that they wouldn't otherwise have been able to do. And then the other thing to flag up is the Volunteering Expo, which is now scheduled, if it all comes together, next year. There's a huge list of approved project partners on the RIBI website. This, in fact, lists those that I've been able to find, and you'll see that many of those that you've been talking about in the chat are included on this list. And I think each and every one is worth looking at and seeing whether or not it can in fact be a target for collaboration from our clubs within the district. I think, you know, all the stalwart projects are there. I'm particularly interested in seeing Trussell Trust, given the huge pressure on food banks that's going on in the country at the moment with COVID. And then there was one project that I just wanted to flag up to you to check out, and this is a project about nutrition. It's been launched by Rotary Action Group in Tasmania in Australia, and it's called Food Plant Solutions. And what it seeks to do is to identify highly nutritious plants for growing in certain developing countries. And they've in fact based this on an extensive plant database, which analyzes which plants are possible to grow in particular areas, how you go about doing this, and the idea is that you link up the nutrition and horticultural information with existing partners who are developing development projects. So it's just one to get everybody to have a look at. They are incredibly passionate about it, and they're hoping, in fact, that End Malnutrition Now can be a slogan that follows in the footsteps of End Polio Now. So just to sum out the team, this is the team as it currently stands. We are on the lookout for Rotaract and potentially Interact members who could bring the average age of the team down. But this group of people are extremely experienced, and all of them have a particular experience which they can share with you. Certainly Malcolm Ross has enormous skills and experience in a lot of areas, and I think we should all take advantage of talking to all of these people. So thank you once again for coming on the chat today, for coming on the Zoom meeting. I'm excited about the potential for international service next year within the district. I think there's a lot to do, and I think clearly COVID means that we're going to focus on community service in the first step, but once things get back to the new normal, then I would hope that we're going to be able to also reach out and grow the Rotary world by taking on some really exciting and passionate projects in the spirit and vein that we saw in Uganda. Thanks to everybody. Any questions for any of our speakers?
There's more comments than questions. Lots of support, a lot of people telling us about the things that they're doing. Another thing that's come up actually, Hamish, is Lend with Care. Somebody mentioned it, and I know that Malcolm
and David and Malcolm are both connected with that, yes.
Yeah, and if people don't know about Lend with Care, contact Malcolm. It is a great scheme, and even the smallest of Rotary clubs can get involved in it. Small amount of money, but has a huge impact. Really good. A few more people telling us about. Sarah has left her details there. Sarah Patterson, if anyone would like to get in touch with her with regards to Rotary in Africa. If you're still here, Sarah, please pass on my regards to Gianna, my good friend in South Africa. And who else we got here? I think it's mostly people saying thank you very much. I think people have learned quite a lot. It was interesting to have the e-club type thing in there to show, and one thing I took from that, the very, very start, it said, "Dare to be different." Right. What a great quote. What a great quote in these times. Dare to be different. Get out there, and where there's a will, there's a way, and there's some great projects. But if we can, James, I'm not sure how we can, but if people haven't read some of the projects that are going on and some of the ideas in here, it would be good if we could try and get these out to people.
Everyone can save the chat by clicking the 3 dots.
All right.
You can save chat, but also send the chat out.
Wow. With
the recording.
Sounds good.
Send it to you, Hamish.
Excellent. That's really good.
I really commend you for mentioning Rotaract on your committee, because it's come straight from the top that every district committee should have a Rotaract representative on it. So any service chair that would throw that out, it's come straight from the top.
Well, that's great.
Should we invite David to make a closing comment? David?
Yes, please.
Well, Hamish, another excellent service lead session here, and it's certainly opened our eyes to what Rotary does in the world. The amount of chat that's been on there. You may not be aware of what's actually going on in District 1180, but there's a tremendous amount, and I've asked them all to let you know, because without the consultation and collaboration between clubs and yourself, then we're not going to know. I didn't know half of what was going on out there. Some tremendous work throughout the world, and I'm sure with your leadership in that position, we'll extend it even further. So thank you very much.
Thanks, David. I certainly am very excited to see the growth in the use of WhatsApp groups to spread the news, and I think that is something that we can develop across the district and beyond, to try and really spread the news about potential projects and collaborations. Yeah. I think gone are the days when one project is handled by one club. I think we've now got to stretch out and work together across the districts and across clubs to deliver results.
And I just about the grants, you know, the closer collaboration we have between foundation and each service lead, then the better chance we have of getting grants. And I know Doreen's on the call, and she